Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Seams. You are here for our season finale of season 2. We're here to talk about the business of Texas fashion. So do not adjust your screens because the fashion revolution is being televised. So first up, we have Clever Carr from the House of Imaji, a visionary designer whose brand proves that Texas creativity has global reach. Give it up for Clever. Next, we have Melissa Pierce from CTFC, Central Texas Fashion Coalition. CTFC is doing amazing things in this fashion community. So, if you haven't visited the table, you're going to be amazed with the things that they are doing and talking about. And, well, I don't want to steal her thunder. She'll talk about it later. And next, we have joining us from the tech frontier, Sam Alexander. CEO of Concept to Consumption, Innovation, and the way designers prove that they can sell and produce, and also do it with a flair of technology. Give it up for Sam. Next, we have Sabrina Merrill from Broadway Bank. From our wonderful sponsors of Broadway Bank, Sabrina's a small business finance expert who helps fashion founders turn their passion for fashion into profits. Okay, we like that, right?
Yes.
And rounding out on the panel, Rebecca Hoffer. From one of our few in-state apparel development companies. Woo, thank you so much for being here. Well, I'll actually take the seat over here.
Trajan.
Well, how is everyone doing? Because this is a day and a half for us. It is so wonderful to see y'all all here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Doing
Happy to
awesome,
be here.
awesome. On the right side of the grass.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'd have to say this is a momentous occasion. And to have all of you powerhouses together to be able to discuss such powerful topics is highly important to our fashion community. And I have a lot to say, therefore, you see I have a lot of cards. All right, so as I fumble through my cards, we're going to start with my favorite question. All right, many of our Texas designers happen to struggle to find local production options. And from a development and manufacturing standpoint, what would it take to rebuild that pipeline right here in the state of Texas?
I have a lot of thoughts on this topic.
All right, girl.
So what I think the groundwork that we need in order to really create an industry, a fashion industry for Texas, is we need the technical know-how. So thank you. Some of you might know we no longer have home ec in our schools anymore. That was something that I grew up doing. I learned how to sew a pillow and cook hamburger helper, kind of like basic life skills, but that's gone. Wood shop is another one, gone. And so unfortunately, we've stopped training people how to make things. So the only way that I see that we have a future where we make things is by teaching people how to make them, which means that we need to bring it back into the school or back into education in some platform, which is going to mean that the state of Texas needs to fund this kind of education so that we have a workforce that's trained enough to do it and bring production back here.
Much agreed. And I was a part of that home ec crowd. I did some mean scalloped potatoes. And I could sew a stitch or two. I remember my pinking shears, but anyone else want to chime in on that?
Yes, I really feel like we definitely have to bring manufacturing back, but we need to make it accessible. Like right now, if you're a small designer, you're probably sending your samples out to like LA or overseas. Why? Because either the Texas facilities don't exist or they have required minimums that are too expensive. You can't afford them. Imagine a creative mini production hub in South Austin. You know, a shared production space filled with pattern makers and cutters and industrial machines. I mean, 10 emerging brands could all create their collection side by side. You know, that's what I mean about a mini manufacturing hub. Now, if centers like that were across the state in Austin and San Antonio, Dallas and Houston, and they were supported by grants or partnerships with like schools or nonprofits, then not only do we keep those dollars in the state, but we also continue to train the next generation of skilled innovators.
I like that.
I agree with that. And I think something that you mentioned were grants to help fund this, because this needs to be a viable occupation.
Yes.
It needs to be viable for somebody to have that career, and it needs to be viable enough for somebody to pay for that person to do it,
Right.
which is going to also mean that we have to retrain consumers on where they're spending their money and how they value dollar for item.
I feel like there's a lot that could be done, so it's like a really big topic. But I think getting creative and starting small, I think entrepreneurs could take like the idea that you just came up with, for example, and run with it. Starting small, because you know this isn't New York City. We don't have a century of infrastructure, but we can start building some things, and we have an incredible community here. So I just think if people got creative and kind of all kind of came together, I definitely think that there's a lot that could be done. And it's kind of starting and seeing like how things come together and what people want and need.
Right.
Okay. Well, first thing I want to say happy birthday.
Happy birthday!
And
You snuck that in.
I've worked with most of you guys here in the city, and I'm glad to see everybody here coming together. And one of the biggest questions that I think that is becoming a problem here is that we're not organized. And as a group, we need to form an organization. And we had that at one point. COVID kind of knocked it out. And that was how we got the incubator at ACC, was through you guys coming together as an organization. The biggest problem that we had in that organization is so many people want to go different directions. And artists have a tendency to do that. So what we have to do is create a committee and a panel that will manage the direction that we're going. And what we're missing right now, we're at the largest paradigm shift that anybody's ever seen in the history of the world. We're moving away from what you know to a tokenization world. And you got to pay attention to it, because Web3 technology is here and it's not going away. It's not about artificial intelligence. It's about the whole technology. You got AR, VR, MR, XR technology that we're integrating into the fashion industry. You've got AI, which is already, we've been dealing with AI for the last 10 years. It's been around for 60 years. So it's just a hype now. It's going to crash, and you need to be careful, because it is going to crash. And what you need to be looking at is IoT, Internet of Things. Everything that can be connected will be connected. The only things that will have value are the things you can't connect. We're moving to what's called a zero marginal cost of goods, meaning that your robotics and your AI will bring cost of goods down to almost zero. So what happens now is AI and this technology is not going to take your job. Somebody using these technologies are going to take your job. So what you have to do is prepare yourself. And what I've heard down here is everybody talking about how to build this foundation. And we have to sit down and start from the ground and build it up. But we have a leading edge here. We got to quit thinking as a city and start thinking globally. Austin is the center of the world. We have to take advantage of that. Austin, everybody in the world knows that Austin is moving and grooving. We exceeded Silicon Valley in startups last year. Most people don't know that. For the fashion industry, we had the National International Machinery Convention for the fashion industry right here in Austin. I think it was February, somewhere back there. So we're building it out. It's just nobody understands how to become a part of it. And that's where the organization comes in. And we have to create that organization from the ground up. And everybody has to look at things and say, okay, the way I understand it doesn't work like that anymore. It's not going to work like that anymore. And as some of you know, I've done production all over the world. I have facilities. Buc-ee's was one of my last clients. I was shipping anywhere from 50 to 60,000 units in the Buc-ee's. I deal with Neiman Sachs, Nordstrom's, all the major stores. So I've seen all that. What we're moving to now is a community. We have to create a community so we can rebuild this country from the ground up. Austin is ahead of the game because before COVID, we built the foundation, and we have one of the first advanced manufacturing facilities here at ACC. That facility gives us the foundation for the whole world. They come in here from all over the world just to see that facility, okay? That is one of the most powerful tools that we have, and it's right here in Austin. But what we're not doing is organizing and then taking advantage of that. At McCallum High School, we have 200 kids there in an incubator. They do their own show from the 9th to the 12th grade. These kids are going off to Parsons and all the major schools, and people don't even know about that. We have a trash makeover. We had 30 to 35 designers come in from all over the U.S. It was a sellout this year. There's a lot of things going on in the city, but we have to be organized and start building from the ground up. There's so much opportunity right now. Out of chaos comes nothing but opportunity, and we're at probably the largest paradigm shift that you've ever seen in the history of the world is going on right now. And if you see it as opportunity out of chaos, then you'll find it. But right now, you've got to be creative. You got to quit thinking the way that everyone else thinks and start thinking about, where is this thing going to? Quit chasing the ball and go to where the ball is going to and let the ball come to you. And we're ahead of the ball right now.
Sam, what do you think about New York's place in the technology? In a state like New York and California, there's a connected ecosystem, design schools, and what would it take for Texas to create an ecosystem?
We have to organize, and we have everything here to organize, but we're just not organized. And right now, with the paradigm shift that we're going through, New York doesn't have an advantage of us because their costs and their cost of living and what it costs to produce products. I produce products in New York. It's not fun. And most of the stuff is moved over to Brooklyn. So it's not in New York. Our fashion industry that used to be on 7th and Broadway, it's gone. The tech industry took it over. So everything that we know in New York is over with. It's not even in New York anymore, the fashion industry. The shows that they're having up there, there's nobody coming to the shows to buy that way anymore. It's all changing. Everything's going to on-demand customization. We're upcycling everything. The biggest trend in the market right now is upcycling. We're turning trash into art.
Sam, also, when you talk about New York not having the shows anymore.
They're still having them. It's just that the way that we understand the business. Neiman's just was bought out by Saks. Saks was just refinanced. Nordstrom's was just bought out. Everything is changing. Macy's just shut down 150 retail stores.
They did, yeah, absolutely.
So this whole industry is changing. We're sitting on probably the most powerful city in the world to turn this into not a city of fashion, not a state, not a country, but globally, Austin can become the fashion capital. We have the ability to do it. We just aren't organized.
I think we're getting there. The Central Texas Fashion Coalition is helping to compose this fashion ecosystem. What are the actual steps that are being taken?
I would say one of the biggest things is just supporting people right now because, like you said, there's a lot of people, and I agree with that they are kind of all over the place and they're not organized. And I think a lot of that is just the lack of that actual support that they need to feel in order to take like the next steps with their business, because we have a lot of hobbyists and a lot of people that are interested, maybe taking baby steps to start a business, but it's very scary. And so these people need support, and they need networking, and they need financing, which is very difficult, and all of these puzzle pieces that they need. So I just think right now it's getting everyone together, supporting those people, teaching them what they need, mentoring them, whatever they need at that moment to prepare them for the next step. And then I think the more people that do that, inspire other people to take those steps. And so all of the designers, all of the stylists, all of the producers, everyone in the fashion industry coming together, we're all just building this together. And so it's just one person at a time being brave and taking that next step.
You mentioned financing. Mm-hmm. So where can we say the creatives are in this step in making their relationships with financing?
So I think a lot of it is for creatives is understanding their resources and understanding that there's places to go to help build and learn how to operate yourself as a business while still maintaining your creative integrity and building up your dream. You know, America was built on dreams and betting on yourself, and there's places you can go and people you can talk to figure out and learn how to do that, and just being open to the feedback that you get from your financial individuals. For me, for my clients, I do financial overviews all the time for them to say, hey, what can we do for you? And also, where do you need to go? What can we help you with? And how you can get there. So financing is all the different pieces of, the banks being more flexible and understanding the creative process and that it doesn't look like every other business. But also with entrepreneurs, understanding that the financing world's not going to change much in the near future as far as looking at how to gain financing. And let me help you get that edge to get what you need. So that's a huge thing, I think, is just understanding your resources and who you have at your fingertips to help support you.
What do you think designers can do to get ready for that moment of becoming an entrepreneur when they need to come see you?
I think it's a lot of different things. Start early. Start thinking of yourself early as a business. Visit with your fellow entrepreneurs and people in your field and gain insight to what they do and how they did it. And use the people at the banks and the credit unions, sit down with them and ask them what they're looking for and how to help you get there. Also, we have a ton of connections when it comes to marketing and different things like that to help get your name and your brand out there, and connections within the bank. As a business banker myself, I deal with all different kinds of businesses, and one of my favorite things to do is to connect my business clients with like-minded business clients to help grow their network as well. So I would always recommend and ask your banker, your financial expert, hey, do you have anybody that does what I'm looking for? That's a huge open resource for you there.
Something I'd like to add to that, as somebody who's in the development field, there's some sort of idea, ballpark range of how much it's going to cost to develop something. And then from there, we can again ballpark the production costs. So I would say reach out to other development houses, reach out to Stitch, Texas. We're the best, but it's fine. Reach out to others. More opinions are more, in my humble opinion. So reach out to people, get those ideas of numbers. And then what I would say is you're going to spend majority of your pie, your dollar pie, on marketing. That is how you sell your product. Developing your product, that's no problem. That we can do. And we can give you some ballpark ranges. But selling your product and knowing how much it's going to cost or an approximation of that is really what's going to make you successful as a business. Once you sell it, you get funds coming in, and you can either develop a new product if you find that it doesn't resolve all the needs, or you can do a 2.0 version of your product, or you just honestly pay yourself back. Like you can't be sustainable without money also coming in.
Okay.
I think a huge.
No, go ahead.
I think a huge thing too, especially for financing, is learning how to talk about your business in numbers, because that's what financing and banks and nonprofit lenders and the SBA. That's all what they're going to look at. They have your story and they know you have a dream and you want to go out and create a beautiful thing and build your business, but they need to know that you understand how to talk about your business in numbers and be financially viable. So reaching out to your CPAs and things like that to understand what your business looks like on paper is huge.
And on paper, just to give you guys an idea, used to be any young designer that would come to me, we automatically knew it was going to cost them $250,000 just to get up and running the first year. With the new technologies that we have now, all those costs have been cut completely. All our design costs, all those things that we used to have to pay for, sample production, sometimes we used to have to make 3 to 6 samples to get a sample made up, and a lot of those were upfront costs. The biggest problem that I see with new companies is they're all looking for venture capital. They're not coming to me and saying, these are my revenue streams. This is how many revenue streams that I see that my company can turn out by making my product. They're all looking to spend money instead of figuring out how to make money.
Coming from that creative that has to wear every single hat, that doesn't come from the money and everything like that. It's true, yes, we creatives have to treat our art like a business. We need to understand our cash flow. We need to know how to track our expenses and forecast our growth. But a lot has to change as well. You can take a designer in San Antonio right now that's making steady sales with local boutiques, but she goes to a bank to try to get a loan, and she's being denied because she doesn't have a 3-year profit history.
But
What sometimes banks and investors kind of got to realize that we operate in seasons, not in quarters. So although our revenue may fluctuate, our demand doesn't always fluctuate.
okay, can I share something real quick? That's one of the misconceptions that we have about this industry. We have what's called factors. And a factor will take your invoices if you have sales. Once you ship those invoices, a factor will give you 80% of that invoice. So that becomes your cash flow. And there's so many financial institutions in our industry that do those type things. And as far as the money up front for new designers, we're looking from the government to give us grants to help these new designers get up and running. And that's how we see the transition. There's going to be a lot of grants for new companies coming up and going, because what we're doing right now is we're reshoring all of our industries back here now. So everybody that's thinking about how to do their business, you got to be thinking about how do we reshore. And that grant money will be there. It's coming, because we have to create small businesses. 90% of all the new jobs come from small businesses. We have to create a velocity of money within the community. Money has to change hands 7 times in the community before we have what's called an economy. And if that money can turn in the community, then we don't need anybody else. We can have our own microsystems. Once we build our microsystems with the new technology, then we become global. We have to become organized. We have to understand these new technologies and use them to our advantage, not to our disadvantage.
And we have to stay it has to be a collaborative
Organized.
effort.
Organized.
Not just degree holders when it comes to, creatives. There are a lot of self-taught creatives out there that don't know any of the information, it's not privy to what organizations are out there to kind of help you get to that next level. When we exclude those type of people from the whole fashion ecosystem, then we don't have a full ecosystem. We're a connected community society. We're resilient. We are diverse and innovative. We got to use all of us to make sure that we do something different in Texas instead of trying to just reinvent the wheel.
Sam, I have a quick question for you.
Sure.
You've talked about how we're getting grants to help emerging designers, and that it's going to be super important because it costs money to build a thing. Mm-hmm. For the onshoring that you're talking about, who is going to work these factories? Do we have training in place?
That's what ACC is about right now, is training these people how to use new technologies to their advantage.
And then for sewing, because there are some machines that are fully automated, there aren't that many, and they're mostly simple items like T-shirts that I've seen that are fully automated. What's the expected hourly rate pay for that? Because I find it challenging to think that somebody's going to invest in their education to be trained on how to run a machine and then be able to make enough working that machine to live in the city.
Well, it's not about working the machine. It's about being creative with the new technologies. And these new technologies give you a leapfrog over everyone else with having to do but as far as the education goes, we're not teaching people how just to run the machines. We're teaching them how to work within the new ecosystem.
There is quite a gap. And as you say, it's turning into a trouble spot. Rebecca, when designers come to you and they're looking to produce their lines and you offer them an affordable MOQ, what is it that you find that they're not prepared with? What are the gaps? What are the things that you have to send them back to the drawing board because they're excited to get it produced, but they don't have?
I would say most of the gap is the monetary expectation. We as consumers have been conditioned to believe that we can buy anything for $5. And this has been a thing for decades. And so consumers expect this, inventors also expect this, and if we're bringing things back, it's going to cost more money. So at an MOQ that somebody is willing to produce something at, which at Stitch, our usual MOQ is 300 units of the same style, but we also can go as low as 150, which is a lot for really small designers. And it costs a lot to do that. So I think that the biggest issue is that people are not actually aware of how expensive it's going to be to produce in lower quantities. And I think lower quantities are the best. That's less waste. Ultimately, you can get a more refined product, a more thoughtful product. But that like dollar value product is not in line. And I'm really hoping that with the technologies that Sam is talking about, that we can kind of dial that in and make that more available. But I think it's really going to take a dollar recalibration in the brain for consumers.
Well, I think also understanding from like a small business perspective, you know, when you're talking about the scenario you just went through, you're talking about somebody just starting. And with that, before you get to the factory level, the manufacturing level, a small business line of credit or a business credit card to help get you there is a huge tool and an opportunity to help you get to the next step. So understanding that when you go into and you're making these smaller sales in the beginning and you just need a couple extra $1,000, you're not looking at the huge returns that you could get from manufacturing or selling from a large store or anything. You're trying to be your bespoke artist, and banks can help there. So before you get to where you're having this cycle of constant revenue and return and purchasing and then revenue return purchasing, you know, you need to get up off the ground. And I think there are some places where banks can help with smaller levels of lending and also giving you the resources. You know, I help my clients try and connect in their industries that you know, it might seem hard or they're like, I don't know where to go or what to do. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to be here today, because I'm not as well versed in the fashion industry, but small business is my passion.
So you set up lines of credit for small businesses, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
That's what they need, is a line of credit. That helps them to pay their bills when they don't have a cash flow. So that's what your focus should be, is line of credit.
That's what I do. So my official title is the Small Business Specialist for Broadway Bank. Okay. So that's all I do every day is talk to businesses that are in their beginning stages, you know, the first 5 to 10 years of their business, and helping them figure out where to go, what to do, and how to get there.
For the creatives that don't necessarily qualify for your conventional, because you were saying that, you know, it gets kind of conservative. You know, those small loans, would they be considered like micro loans that could be tied to like actual sales or purchase orders? Because again, as I stated, sometimes our revenue fluctuates. It's not that we're not making sales, but it's this month we're not making as much as next month. And when you guys look at the whole totality of that, a lot of times you say, you guys are too risky. We can't give you this because it's not consistent. So do banks, or would the banks be open to having very specific, you know, creative style microloans?
You know, I think there can be those in the banking industry, and some financial institutions already offer loans kind of tied to those things. I know they're popular with the tech industry. You know, kind of an industry that's very big and out there that those kinds of loans or lines of credit are often associated with is construction, because they are up and down all the time. You know, you have a rainy September and they're not working. So understanding things from when you're looking at a construction and relating that to the fashion industry, the flow of business can be very similar. And I think, you know, when it comes to the banks looking at that, it's something where we need to take a different step as a financial institution and not look at it so much as it's a hobby position, but this is actually an industry. It creates jobs. It propels us forward. It gives us art within our community to give us culture. So there are things within the industry that need to change, but there are things that are already in place that can help for the time being. So it's there, and helping the small businesses and the entrepreneurs find it is one of the things that I'm here to do.
How many of you guys are familiar with EGBI? Okay, EGBI is a program here, and they will take your small business from the ground up and help you build it out with all your requirements for your business requirements. They also have financial things there that help also. They'll help you connect with ladies like her and go through the process. But there's just so many things that we look at. Why are we looking at going in debt when we should be looking at how to make revenue? That should be the focus of anybody's business. The biggest problem that I see with any company that comes to me, they don't have a business plan. I say, where's your business plan? Well, I'm working on it. Well, what do you need this $250,000? What do you need these $2 million for? Well, I need to do the money to get started up. No, you need to tell me what you're gonna spend my money on and tell me how I'm gonna get a return on my money and not just put money in a hole, because it's like a boat with a hole in the bottom. I just keep putting money in it and you keep coming back. You go buy gas for your car with my money, you run out of gas and you come back and want some more money. I need you to tell me where you're going, how you're gonna get there, and how we're gonna get a return so we can be good business people together. We need to have a business plan. I don't see a lot of business plans out there. EGBI will help you with all that. They're the best at it in the city. They also work with the city. There's also another program called Circular Economy for the city. If you're starting up with a small business and you need to know about sustainability, they'll give you $2,000 to go into that program, and then they have a $10,000 deal at the deal that you can compete for.
Sam, you're absolutely right. When it comes to business plans, this is a big, huge missing factor in the fashion community, where it's time to link our creative minds to our business mind. But having Broadway Bank here, this is a historical first. I'm not sure if anyone realizes this. This is the first time that a bank has decided to be a part of the fashion ecosystem and outstretch their hand to say, we're here for the creatives to be on this stage and to represent that olive branch that fashion creatives can come to you. So this is a historical first. No other bank has placed themselves in the midst of our community like this. So, of course, I'm really appreciative to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me. I work a lot with the art leagues out in the Hill Country, and the creatives are very near and dear to my heart. So I always want to see them succeed and do well and be able to offer anything that I can. But sometimes it's hard conversations, too. And that's part of it, is that I might, if you come in and we sit down and have an evaluation, I might say something that you don't like, but I'm only saying it because I want you to get better, whether it's your credit or your revenue or how you're keeping your books or anything like that. That's what I'm here to do, is to make sure when you go to talk to gentlemen like Sam and try and make deals with him and build your brand up, or go and talk to the big box stores, you have everything in place, and I'm just a step on your staircase.
I think we've covered a lot of important points, but I keep hearing the same thing repeated. Organize, unify, organize. What is it that we need to do specifically once we walk away from the stage to actually unify our fashion community so that we can have a business fashion ecosystem? What do we need to do to unify?
I'm going to throw this out there. Just join our organization, Central Texas Fashion Coalition, because that's our mission, is really to bring everyone together and create an ecosystem. So I'm just going to throw that out there. If you have any questions about it, our website is just centraltexasfashioncoalition.com. There's so many people in the community that are really excited to grow and everything. So we just all need to get together, and that really is that's what it's all about.
I love that. I also think that if you do join, that will connect designers with technicians. You can start really slow by bringing that connection to a maker space. Like Stitch Texas, we're a development shop that is full of pattern makers, sample makers, tech designers. We build markers for production. Like, we are your startup small business resource. And if more designers knew about us, then they wouldn't have to wear all the hats. And they could focus on their designs and then link up with a bank or create a business proposal and then reach out to investors. Like, there are steps that are needed, but I think that this coalition is a great place to start. And then from there, networking. Like, we are full of people. Everybody on this stage is somebody that is vital to this industry to make it circular, to make it work. The only thing we're missing is consumers, but guess what? We all wear clothes. Guess we're all consumers.
And I want to go back to what you said earlier about the incubator. If you create a group and a community, the city finances part of that incubator. And it takes a group to be able to get things changed. Everybody goes political on you when you have something like that given to you. So as a group, if you're organized, when we were organized, the mayor showed up at our meetings. Everybody was trying to work with us. There's grants for the arts that we don't have for the fashion. We should have a fashion grant from the city. That budget's there. Those are your tax dollars. But you have to organize to get that money. And I'm glad to hear that you're doing that, because that's what it's going to take for a fashion industry to be working for you guys here, because we're going to have the industry here. I want all you guys to be a part of it. That's what I'd like. I'd like to see everyone prosper in this new era of enlightenment that we're about to go through. And this is, like I said, one of the biggest changes you're going to see in the history of the world right now. You're in the middle of it. It's a switch. And all the things in this Web3 technology, you need to learn about it. It's called tokenization. The government's already tokenizing right now. They just gave a stable coin. It's all coming, so you better get ready for it.
You know, additionally, we have to have it less about hierarchy and more about collaboration. If we can have rotating trade shows, you know, a statewide where, you know, it's not just in one centralized location, couple that with the network that you have, networks like yours, but also have inclusive mentorship that supports both degree holders and, you know, self-taught creators. And it could be merged from emerging designers and established designers. If everyone did that, then we would be organized. So everyone would have the knowledge that's needed to get to that next level. But it just has to be less about hierarchy, less about bureaucracy, and more about collaboration.
And your organization has to be tri-sector. It has to be private industry, government, and education. And I know that it gets into bureaucracy when you get there, but that has to all work together.
I think we can all agree that unifying and also organizing is the backbone of bringing this community together. But I think the organizing goes back to I'd like to say one sheet of paper, but we know it's 30 pages of paper. But it's the only way to get the creative mind connected to the business and financial mind.
Thank you.
And say it with me, business plan. Business plan. How many of us know what a business plan is? How many of us have ever written a business plan? How many of you were terrified when you started on page 1 of that business plan? Okay, and myself included, obviously. If you start the business plan, your dream won't die, I promise you. But you have to start it so that when it gets to this side of the spectrum, when we have financial meetings, the ideas and the creative ideas meet up with the numbers. Because the bank's talking numbers. You can't go to a bank with your sketches. I've seen it done before. It's a heartbreaking moment.
It may be pretty to you, but it ain't pretty to her. She wants to see black and white numbers right now. She wants to say, how's my money going to be returned to this bank?
You have to, as Sam is saying, as everyone is saying, know how to speak the language of numbers, and that is the single thread of organizing the thought of our fashion ecosystem. We need to introduce the business plan early, high schools even. Not your first time seeing a business plan at age, we won't say mine, but you know, if you see it early, then you're not so scared. So we can all agree, unify and organize.
And education early.
Education, yeah.
Yes.
I think with that, this is a fantastic place to stop. We have covered a lot of points, and this has been a plethora, just gems dropping all over the place. So thank you, panel. Thank you so much. Thank you, audience, for being here. On that journey, on your way to the top, it can be hard, but just remember that it was worth every stitch. And as I like to say, a smile is always in style. Keep it fashionable.